Hi, have a good day everyone. So my name is Shalamay Binsig and I am the reporter of this topic. So our topic for today is all about the international protected area. So what are the types of protected areas and management requirements? First, but IUCN Protected Area Management categories classify protected areas according to their management objectives. The categories are recognized by international bodies such as the United Nations and by many national governments such as the global standard for defining and recording protected areas, and as such are increasingly being incorporated into government legislation. So first, we have the 1A strict nature reserve. So our strictly protected areas sit aside to protect biodiversity and also possibly geological, geomorphical features where human visitation, use, and impacts are strictly controlled and limited to ensure protections of the conservation's values. So such protected areas can serve as indispensable reference areas for scientific research. Next is 1B wilderness area. Protected areas are usually large and modified or slightly modified areas retaining their natural character and influence without permanent or significant human habitation, so which are protected and managed so as to preserve their natural conditions. So second is the national park. Protected areas are large natural or near natural areas set aside to protect large-scale ecological processes, along with the complement of species and ecosystems characteristics of the area. So which also provide foundations for environmentally and culturally compatible, spiritual, scientific, educational, recreational, and visitor opportunities. Third is the national monument or feature. Protected areas are set aside to protect a specific natural monument, which can be a landform, seamount, submarine cavern, geological feature such as an ancient grove. So they are generally quite small protected areas and often have a high visitor value. Fourth is the habitat or species management area. So protected areas aims to protect particular species or habitats, and management reflects this priority. So many category for protected areas will need regular, active interventions to address the requirements of particular species or to maintain habitats, but this is not a requirement of the category. So 5. Protected landscape or seascape. A protected area where the interaction of people and nature over time has produced an area of distinct character with significant ecological, biological, cultural, and scenic value. So, aware safeguarding and integrity of this interaction is vital to protecting and sustaining the area and its associated nature's conservations and other values. Last is protected area with sustainable use of natural resources. So protected areas conserve ecosystems and habitats together with associated cultural values and traditional natural resource management systems. So they are generally large, with most of the area in a natural conditions, where a proportion is under sustainable natural resources management and where low-level non-industrial use of natural resources compatible with nature conservation is seen as one of the main aims of the area. So that's all, and thank you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, classmates. My name is Rona G. Abila. My topic is all about the history of protected areas and international union. Protected areas or conservation areas are locations which receive protection because of the recognized natural or ecological or cultural values. There are several kinds of protected areas which vary level of protection depending on the naval laws of each country of the regulation of international organization. Generally speaking, protected areas are understood to be those in human presence or at least exploitation of natural resources. Protected areas or cultural artifacts and their story is intertwined with the human civilization. Protecting places and natural resources is by no means a modern concept, whether it be in the indigenous communities regarding sacred sites or conservation of European hunting reserves. Over 200 years ago, royal degrees in India protected areas. In Europe, which are powerful protected areas hunting grounds of 1,000 years. The oldest legally protected reserve record in history of Maine Ridge Forest Reserve, established by an ordinance dated April 13 in 1776. The designation of protected areas often also contained a political statement. In the 17th and 18th century, protected areas were mostly hunting grounds or rollers, and thus, on the other hand, an expression of the absolute personal authority of a monarch. On the other hand, they concentrated in certain places and diminished the increasing and spatial distance of the seat of power. Initially, protected areas are recognized on a national scale, differing from country to country until 1933, when an effort to reach international consensus and standard of terminology of protected areas took place of International Conference of Protection of Fauna and Flora in London. At the 1962, the first World Conference on National Parks settled in the effect of Industrial Revolution had on the world natural environment was acknowledged, and the need to preserve for the future generation was established. In 1972, the Stockholm Declaration of the United States Conference of Human Environment endorsed the protection of representative examples of all major ecosystem types as a fundamental requirement of national conservation programs. This has become the core principle of conservation biology and remained so in recent resolution, including the World Charter of Nature in 1982, the Rio Declaration of Earth Summit in 1992, and the Johannesburg Declaration in 2002. International Union or IUCN or International Union for Conservation of Nature was established on October 5, 1948 in the French town of Fontainebleau, the first global international union. It brought together governments and civil society and organizations with a shared global to protect nature. During the first decade of its existence, IUN primary focus on examining the impact of human activities of nature. It flagged the damaging effect of pesticides and diversity and promote the use of environmental impact assessment, which have since become the norms across sectors and industries. Much IUCN's subsequent work in 1960s and 1970s was devoted to protection of species and habitats necessary of the survival. In 1964, IUN established the IUN Red List of Threatened Species, which has since evolved in the world's most comprehensive data source of global extinction risk and of species. IUN has also played a fundamental role in creation of key international convention, including the Ramsar Conservation Wetlands in 1971, the World Heritage Convention of 1972, the Convention of Heritage Trade in Endangered Species 1974, and the Convention of Biological Diversity of 1992. In 1980, IUCN, in partnership with UN Development Program or UNEP of the World Wide Fund of WWF, published the World Conservation Strategy, a groundbreaking document in the help define of the concept of sustainable development and shape of the global conservation and sustainable development agenda. In 1992, the Earth Summit was published. It reserved the basis of international environmental policy and guided the creation of Parity Convention of Biodiversity or CBD, Climate Change or UNFCCC, and the certification of UNCCD. In 1999, as environmental issues continued to gain importance on the international stage, the UN General Assembly granted IUCN official observer status. In early 2000s, IUCN developed its business engagement of strategy, prioritizing sectors and significant impact of national livelihood such as mining and oil gas, and aimed to ensure the use of natural resources is equitable and ecologically sustainable. That's all my topic in our report. Thank you for listening.